The developing news, President Cyril Ramaphosa has taken what's an unprecedented step, calling for public participation in the selection of a new Chief Justice. The term of the current Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng, comes to an end next month. We're joined now by Mbekezeli Benjamin from the organisation Judges Matter. Mbekezeli, good morning, good afternoon to you, and thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. I know this is a developing story. Firstly, the idea of having public consultation for a position of this stature, for a position that is this important, is that a good idea?
Good afternoon, Stephen, and good afternoon to the newsroom viewers. It is, in fact, a good idea. We as Judges Matter have been calling for the President to follow an open and transparent and consultative process in the appointment of the Chief Justice. And we're hoping that they would make some space for the public to participate, but we never expected that they would actually call for nominations from the public, which is great. The Chief Justice is an important position in our democracy, and if all of us as South Africans have a say in who becomes the next Chief Justice, it's all the better for the judiciary and the institution and the office of the Chief Justice, rather.
So this goes to a panel, and the panel's names are in fact in the statement. The chair will be Navi Pillay. She is a former judge of the International Court of Justice, also been a United Nations Human Rights Commissioner. The Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamola. The former Minister of Justice, Jeff Radebe. The former Public Protector, Professor Thuli Madonsela. The co-chair of the South African National AIDS Council, Steve Letsike. And then the Professor of Law at Howard University in the US, that's Professor Ziad Motala. Firstly, and I want to come to Jeff Radebe in a moment, but apart from that, how do you view the panel?
I think the panel is balanced, it's diverse, so it includes people who are trained in the law, others who are involved in civil society, like Steve Letsike, and so that's important in terms of building confidence, because we want a diversity of views in this appointment process, and so it's good that it's so diverse. Of course, there are certain names that we would prefer that they would be left off. You mentioned the name of Jeff Radebe. His time really as the Minister of Justice is not a time at which we reached the pinnacle of our judicial or legal developments, and so we would have preferred that name is left out. But overall, the panel seems to be a solid panel.
Well, I mean, maybe I'm just less polite than you, Mbekezeli, but I mean, I remember Jeff Radebe's name was mentioned, and I think slightly critically, if I recall, in a constitutional court judgment because of the role he played in sort of suggesting to President Zuma and approving of the decision to appoint Menzi Simelane as head of the National Prosecuting Authority. There was other things that he did. In fact, if I recall correctly, in the former Deputy Chief Justice Takangmosa Neke's recent book, he also refers to him very, very, very politely, but in a slightly critical manner, or certainly asks questions about him. Let's put it like that. I mean, I understand political balance, but I do wonder if Jeff Radebe maybe has to justify his appointment here.
He absolutely has to. And in fact, you mentioned only some of the scandals that have been linked to his time as Justice Minister. But just a few weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, a court judgment came out which found that his conduct in not appointing a judicial officer was in fact unlawful. And if you recall, he hasn't been minister for many years. So even things that he put in place while he was in office is still following him. And so he's a name that should not have been included on the list. But on balance, looking at the people that are on the list, I think his influence would not be it won't be disproportional. I think what needs to happen now is that the chairperson of the panel needs not to be Jeff Radebe, it needs to be someone else, and his influence on the panel should really be restricted.
Because
in fact, the president should reconsider appointing him. I'm sorry.
That's going quite strong, that the president should reconsider appointing him. I must just ask you about the timing of this. I mean, the clock's ticking. You've been writing about the fact that the clock is ticking. Now we've got a public nomination process. And then after that, it goes to this panel. Then after that, I presume it goes to the Judicial Service Commission. It's not all going to get done in time, is it?
Yes, we've been concerned that the number of days until the retirement of Chief Justice Mogoeng is running out. It's a little over 20 days now. So that was a concern. But I think what is important at this stage is that this process runs thoroughly and properly. And so at this point, the panel should come up with the written criteria that they will use to assess the nominations that they will receive. So what qualities would they be looking for in either putting someone as a nominee or excluding them from that nomination? And so that criteria will be the important part. So even if the days run out, the 20 days until Chief Justice Mogoeng retires runs out, we're hoping that the Justice Zondo will continue to act as Chief Justice while this process unfolds. But the important thing is that this process must be thorough and it must be transparent.
Mbekezeli Benjamin, thanks very much indeed. Do appreciate it from Judges Matter.